Hello, good morning and good afternoon to everyone where you are in the world. This is Sharon Bly. I am the head of Health and Wellness here at the Consumer Goods Forum, and I am delighted to welcome you to our webinar to give you more insights on our 2015 progress report and the next steps in this process. So thank you very, very much to everybody for joining us today. So it's just time to kick off, and I wanted to introduce you to the speakers on today's webinar. So we have the co-chairs of our measurement and reporting work stream, Petra from Nestlé and Ono from Ahold. And we'll also have Will Sarney, who supported us with his team from Deloitte throughout our measurement and reporting process. And all of you will notice that you are all on mute on today's webinar. This is just to avoid echo on the phone, but we will have ample opportunities to discuss at the end of today's webinar. So it's 30 minutes. There will be a Q&A session at the end, and the webinar is being recorded for any of your colleagues who didn't have the possibility to join in the recording, and the slides will be available on our website after today's webinar. So what are we going to cover in the next 30 minutes? We're going to speak about engagement and the need for engagement in our ongoing efforts in health and wellness measurement and reporting. We wanted to give you some additional insights and learnings from this year's report. We wanted to show you what some of our external stakeholders are saying about the results that we published this year. We wanted to give you an update on what's coming next, where are we in our measurement and reporting journey for health and wellness. And as I mentioned, a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. You'll be able to see on your screen here my email address, and if you do have thoughts or questions throughout today's webinar, or you want to connect with me after the session, my email is on the screen here, s.bly@theconsumergoodsforum.com, and please feel free to reach out to me. So with that, I'll hand you over to Ono Franze of Royal Ahold to look into the engagement process around measurement and reporting. Ono?
Thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you all for participating in this webinar, and for many of you for participating in the pilot. Now, why is it so important that we have that engagement from all our CGF members, and maybe in the future even beyond? Together, we want to build that inspiring and activating report for the entire industry. We want to build trust with our customers and with our other stakeholders. And we want to show that our industry can be a part of the solution instead of being a part of the problem. Next slide.
Hi everyone, this is Petra. I join Ono in thanking you for joining and your interest. And you can ask yourself that this is probably a tremendous effort, and we really want to make sure that you understand as well what this means actually for your own company. Why should you do this and not just let the others answer and yourself not? Because indeed it's actually an extremely important tool to show that we are part of the best industry report, and that we can empower our own people in the company to manage and drive the progress against what you have yourself set up for. So that's very important, that you can use this as empowering of your people. The second is actually that you also make your efforts visible and valued by external stakeholders. So it has an importance for your internal activities as much as the external activities. So we want to provide you also with the report a clear structure to show progress on the implementation of the 400 members. So there is a long way to go, and again we need your help to move on with this. And we also want as CGF to make sure that we can show progress towards the CEOs of the companies that have made a public commitment against these strategies. Finally, we also need to be transparent and show that our collaborative actions across the industry are having a positive impact, as Ono already mentioned, and we are helping to empower eventually the consumer itself, or let's say the people around the world, to make healthier choices.
Now it is great that we have 63 companies engaged in the pilot report, and now it is important that we ensure that it will be fully embedded. And with your feedback, that should help to also make it doable for the large but also the smaller companies, the retailers, manufacturers, food and personal care. Now there's an enormous potential. We have what Petra already said, we have 400 members covering or in 70 countries, 2.5 trillion in combined sales, and over 100 million people employed in our total value chain.
Thank you, Ono and Petra, for highlighting the importance of why we need your engagement and your involvement. And now Will Sarney from Deloitte, who worked with us throughout this process, is going to give us more insights into the learnings from this year's progress report.
Thank you, Sharon. So what I'd like to do is briefly go over insights and learning from the last report, the most recent report. It'll provide some direction in terms of where we need to go and some of the opportunities. And as Petra and Ono recognized and stated, there's an opportunity here really to engage with a broad group of stakeholders, essentially the ecosystem of stakeholders that is tackling health and wellness collectively. So as you can see from this first slide, this provides the results for the number of respondents, that established policies on at least one of the CGF health and wellness resolutions. So very high percentage, they are 97%, about 65% established policies on all three. So certainly there's an opportunity here to increase the number of responding companies that are actually addressing all three through policy commitments. Next slide, please. Very similar, what we see with respect to those respondents that established programs, very high response rate, 98%, a somewhat higher percentage of those companies that have actually activated those programs. So again, very encouraging results from those companies that did respond. They're not just making the commitments, but they're also establishing programs in place. Next slide, please. This is where it gets interesting. So with respect to metrics and really how to measure progress, this is a very important part because it ties in very nicely to external communication with that health and wellness ecosystem of stakeholders. So 81% of respondents have set targets and goals with regards to at least one of the CGF health and wellness resolutions. 68% have set quantitative targets and goals. So here what we can see is that a very high percentage of companies are setting targets and goals, but additional opportunity here to really quantitatively identify targets and goals, which will be important for external communication because stakeholders are very interested in what are you measuring and essentially establishing those proof points against those goals that you're setting. Next slide, please. So with respect to communication, not really a surprise here in many ways. We're at the second year of our journey, and we're seeing companies again establish their programs and the goals and quantifying performance against those goals. And then when all of that is in place, they're in a position to communicate externally as to how they're doing. So a somewhat lower response rate at 79% of respondents have publicly disclosed what they're doing with respect to at least one of the resolutions. About 44% communicated as part of a CEO statement. So, as this program matures, what I would expect is that we'll continue to see growth in this area as more and more programs develop quantitative performance and companies are comfortable, if you will, in external communication to that broader ecosystem of stakeholders.
Thank you, Will. And for us at the Consumer Goods Forum and on behalf of our membership, of course, stakeholder engagement both internally with our members and externally is extremely valuable and important for us. And as you may know, we made our public commitments on health and wellness in June 2014. So it's very, very important for us to report when transparent fact-based information to our external stakeholders. And we published this year's report in March last month. And you'll see, I'll bring you through it. We had, Reuters, Food Navigator, Supermarket News reported on the results of our study. And of course, with our first two commitments coming up in January of 2016, implementing employee health and wellness programs and making public policies on nutrition and product formulation, the media will absolutely be looking to see our reporting progress report and what advances we have made during this year. It was very important for us to, and we've seen from the media's perspective that this process was important, and we've seen this in the evidence and the amount of pickup that we received and interest from the media. And we've seen we were published on over 220 websites, and the sentiment that we had from our media partners and the results that were published were favorable. And they was also a very strong acknowledgement of the journey that we're on in health and wellness, and many of the media, they understood this was our first year reporting for the full membership of the Consumer Goods Forum, and they're really looking for what's coming next. So you'll see here just some very, a few examples of what we had in terms of headline news from the media. So publishing the key findings from the report, looking to see what the industry had committed to in terms of health and wellness. Media were very interested in the industry benchmarking itself, its progress, and our positive actions in health and wellness. We had a number of media who acknowledged, as I mentioned, the progress that we're making in terms of the health and wellness commitments and resolutions, and how we're galvanizing action from across our wide membership across the globe. And I think the media are working with us to see how we're going to improve this process year on year. So here are some of the examples that we had, and for us it was very important for us to gain visibility for the industry's efforts in health and wellness. And we at the Consumer Goods Forum are working on, as Ono and Petra and Will mentioned, consumer trust is a foundation for our collaborative and positive actions. And to build this consumer trust, we need to show what we're doing as an industry, and we find this report is a great way for our members to showcase the actions that they're doing, and to show this as with one common voice. And we see that as this report will grow year on year, the media we're expecting an even greater coverage from our media partners, and greater recognition for what you're doing, our members, in terms of health and wellness actions at your company.
Okay, so what's next? I think within the steering committee we already noticed that a lot of people felt that there was probably took quite some time, and we acknowledge that in the last report, like, thanks again for everybody that went all the way through, but there is room for improvement. And indeed, we really want to actually inspire you and activate that, and actually what is the most important step next is that we make it really, really, really easier. That the report is actually something that is also easier to be completed. Let me remind you that we have two deadlines, two commitments coming up in 2016 that we would really appreciate that we can measure against and show the big impact that these 400 member companies indeed are making on this, and that we also are truthfully following what we have been telling the world that we would engage and commit to. We also want to make sure that we have a step-by-step process, and that means that we want to make sure that it will be very easy that a company, or big or small, or sitting in the beginning of starting reporting versus something that is already very much toward, communicating externally, makes it easier that everybody can just really fill in the stage where you are. And it is extremely important that everybody basically shows where there is. There is no good status or bad status. I think it's everybody will try to help and build up to come to the next level. And we will also, and that is mainly also through, of course, the Secretariat, that we will make sure that we create synergies wherever possible between regions and with regions on a global level, as well as work with the strategic partners, so that we will not double efforts, but that we actually leverage the existing. So I can already give you a heads up. Please mark your calendar already and book some time, less than last year, but book some time for September 2015 to be filling in the report for 2015.
Thanks, Petra. So we want to help each other to implement the health and wellness in your and other companies. And we are here to support you. Now, there will be a video showcase with the results in June at the Global Summit in New York. Hopefully that inspires. And there will also be a toolkit with practical examples, hands-on, step-by-step process for implementation. Now, we are convinced that it is the right thing to do. With this whole health and wellness, this is a combination, what we often say, of push and pull. It is your own programs, our joint programs, the resolutions and the commitments. That is the push, working on these programs, and the pull is the measuring and reporting. And everybody has different hobbies. Some people like to work on the programs, some have more hobby on reporting. But it is, of course, the combination, and as some people say, if it ain't got measured, it ain't got managed. Next slide, please. So please engage and participate and ask others to do so in these joint programs for measuring and reporting. And the combination of these programs and the measuring and reporting will result in empowering the consumers, the employees and the other stakeholders to make the best choices for health and well-being. And what we always say, what is good for the customers, long and short-term goals, will also be good for our business, long and short-term goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ono, Petra, and Will, and for everyone for joining the webinar today. I think, I hope it comes across in this webinar that we really want to increase engagement from members across the organization to make it easier for you to report, for retailers, manufacturers, wherever you are in the globe and whatever your level of maturity is in the implementation of the health and wellness resolutions and the health and wellness commitments. Of course, we can't do this without you, so your feedback is very, very important, and I speak on behalf of Ono and Petra, who lead this work stream with us here at the Consumer Goods Forum, that your input really will help us to improve for next year, and this is something, so please, if you have thoughts that you would like to share with us as a team, we're very, very open to your suggestions. So you have seen that we have some time to take some questions, so you can either let me know directly on the webinar tool or send me an email directly if you'd like to ask a question to any of today's speakers. I've just received by email. Oh no, this is actually for both of you. Just to start the Q&A session. It was, in your opinion, what would success look like for you in 2016 in terms of measurement and reporting, or what are your hopes and your expectations for this exercise this year and next?
Well, what we always said at the beginning, the report should be inspiring and activating. So if an expert in a company or the CEOs get the report, it should help him to understand the full scope of health and wellness. It should understand where we as an industry are, but also that you can rate your own company against it. And from that, being able to determine what we will have to do as individual companies or as an industry. And what we often say, it is difficult measuring and reporting worldwide, but there are no other organizations who can do so. So success is that indeed we are all participating and we are all happy with our own joint report.
I have another question about the number of respondents that we had. So we had 63 of our member companies reply to the health and wellness questionnaire this year. Of course, we want to improve that, and we want to reach the entire network of the Consumer Goods Forum. But as Ono mentioned, it was the first year that we went beyond the member companies of our board of directors, of which there are 50. So this is absolutely what we're working on as a work stream to re-engineer the survey and the questionnaire to enable more and more member companies to get involved. And as Petra mentioned, the first two metrics that are very important for us at the Consumer Goods Forum is in January 2016 to really understand where we stand in terms of progress on our 2 health and wellness commitments, on employee health and wellness, and on nutrition and product formulation.
Yes, if I can add to this as well, I believe that we also want to go back always to the basics, in my view, which are like the resolutions that every single CEO of every single company has signed up for. And I believe truly that one, we can show actually a collective effort that every single company can translate this also into the individual achievements. So I think, you know, the collective CGF will benefit as much as in every individual company will do. And if we can really make our tools easier to be completed, I think truthfully we should be making the effort to continue on the journey and continue also on the progress reporting.
Petra or Ono, I have a question for you in terms of employee health and wellness. So this is the first commitment that is coming up in 2016. And what will you do to help engage with me as a member company in terms of employee health and wellness programs and support my implementation for employee health and wellness?
Petra, if I can make a start, we are working on a toolkit with a lot of leading companies, and in the toolkit we will describe what it is, but also case studies, how to get it going, and links with best practice studies. So what I said, that will be available in June, and hopefully that will inspire and help many companies.
I have another question that's just come in. Do you have recommendations, co-chairs, on how a company can get involved on what you're doing in health and wellness?
I think the most important is already that we always, again, go back to the basics. I mean, there are the resolutions and the commitments. And this should be also put into a first step to see what, as an individual company, how does it look like for myself. The tools, I think there is a great website with the CGF as well that provides you already with existing measures and help. And the toolkit overall will help as well to get started or to continue the journey wherever you are on the journey. So this probably is an important step as well.
And I would like to mention, on your screen now you'll see the website for the health and wellness pillar. And for the company who's interested in getting more involved, I would say you can contact me directly here at the Consumer Goods Forum, and we work in a number of working groups who are driving forward the agenda of our different commitments that we made publicly with time-wielded commitments last June. And we have a number of teams working together to drive the agenda and to help and support the implementation of these commitments. So if you're interested, please reach out to me, and we'll see how we can integrate your efforts into one of our work streams or collaborative working groups. Great. So we're just coming up to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining us. I hope that you will have your agendas marked for September 2015, when we will be reaching out to you with a new and improved version of the Health and Wellness Questionnaire. And we really thank everybody for all of your efforts to bringing us where we are today in terms of progress. And we are looking forward to seeing how far we've come when we publish our 2016 report next year. So you will be hearing more from us, and thank you very, very much for all of your engagement and your time today. Thank you.